So what we're looking at today is about digitisation. So I'm going to start with a general, what is it? And then I'm looking to have a very practical presentation. So the focus is on what health, safety, environment managers do and the problems that they face in that digitisation can help with. So that's the structure. And I can't cover everything that you do. I've only got 40 minutes. So I've chosen a few areas that we're going to focus on. But that's the structure of the presentation. So we'll start off by thinking, what is digitisation? I mean, if I can say digitisation is about information and how we store and use and manage it and how we can do this better. My particular interest is in mobile apps. Now, I can't see your hands, but if you could just raise your hand, how many people use mobile apps at home at the moment? I'm hoping everyone's got their hand up. It doesn't have, you can just put your hand up in your room if you want. And how many people use mobile apps at home, at work? So it's pretty common to use mobile apps. And that really means that you've already started the digital journey. So what is it? If we think about how many companies work at the moment, how the information comes, how we use it, you get telephone calls, you get paper messages, forms come into you, probably WhatsApp messages. So that information is all over the place. And when it's in these different areas, it's very difficult to make sense of. So we can see in particular with paper forms that you can have that not filled in properly. People didn't understand the question and the paper gets lost on the way to you. You know, it gets dropped in a puddle. You can't read it when it gets to you. It's taken too long to get to you. So the situation has already changed. You know, if it had something really important in it, so someone has spotted a hazard that needs to be urgently solved, and then it takes half a day for that piece of paper to get to you, it could already be too late. So there are many, many problems of having paper type systems. And do you know, this is how paperwork makes most people feel, you know, bureaucratic mess, and they don't want to do it. So the answer is digitisation and having a different way of storing this information. So thinking what types of digitisation you can have, well, it's about how you collect that information. So it can come through mobile apps, which is what I'm going to focus on today. But there are different other systems. You might have heard of Internet of Things, where we get sensors that are attached, you know, wearables on your watch that can tell you your temperature, noise levels, vibration levels, and collecting all that sort of information. So it's a huge subject area. And, you know, perhaps I'll come back and talk about other bits of it later. But for today, I'm going to focus on collecting information through mobile apps, whether that's on your phone or your tablet. The benefits that brings, well, we've already seen how many people are using mobile apps. So you already know how to get the app off the Google Play, off the App Store. You know how to take photos with it, how to do all the swiping in different directions and how it all works. So you're already using it. And when you come to using a mobile app at work, it means that it will be really easy. These, you know, you know, that's the benefit, that you don't have to train people in how to do it. It works wherever you are. So a mobile app, even if you don't have network coverage. So, you know, here in Switzerland, if you go up in the mountains, we have no network. I'm sure that there's many areas in Ghana where you can go where you don't have network coverage. You can still use the mobile app. And what happens is it's stored on the device. And then when you're back with a network signal, that information will move across automatically. So it means that the app is available to use wherever you are. The mobile phone, it collects information itself. It's all built in. So it collects time, the location, and send that information automatically. You can also do things like take photos with it. This means that the information you collect is accurate. getting better information than you're getting from those pieces of paper. And what happens, the information comes into the system, and then you can have set up workflows. So it's not just sitting there doing nothing. You can make it inform people, you can set actions, you can track to make sure the actions happen, and then come into a dashboard. So you've got your analysis sitting there. So it can actually start working for you rather than just sitting there. All this means that when we have digital information, we have much better visibility of what's going on and control of the situation, which is what we're looking at for health and safety. So where's the data collected? Where's it kept? Well, if you've got paper, you're probably keeping it in a filing cabinet, rummaging away to try and find that form, the right one, going back years. If the information is digital, it could be on your hard drive, so on your phone or on your computer. That's great. It's where we all sort of started off. The problem with it being on your hard drive is, if you lose your computer or you break your computer, the coffee cup gets spilt on your computer, then you lose the data. And if your laptop's been stolen, then it's vulnerable that other people can see your company information. So data security can be a big problem with storing things on the hard drive. And it's super, super important if you're doing that to make sure that you back up the information regularly. The next step across is having a company server. So now we have a big computer within the company, and everyone has access to it, and you can share information easily through the company, which is great. Perhaps an issue with this is that the company owns the server, so it has to probably has an IT department that maintains that server, that keeps the software up to date. And so you have to ask these people every time you want something done to your health and safety software to make sure that it will happen. So it's a bit more bureaucratic. The trend at the moment is towards the cloud, which you've probably heard of. So cloud is servers that you rent. And perhaps you just rent part of a server. It can even be in a different country. And they are run by a company that is an expert in software and hardware. So they have all the data protection systems in place. They have their ISO audits, all that sort of thing. So the data is really well protected. And what happens is that when the data is stored in the cloud, it means that you can share it quite easily. So this is not just between people in your company. It can, when you go to different countries, you will still have access to it across your phone, your desktop, wherever. You'll be able to access that data in a cloud. You don't have to install it. It will be available immediately. And it has the opportunity to grow with you. So you're just renting a bit of a server. If you have, 50 people you want to put on it this year, that's fine. Next year, 100 people, you just rent a bit more of the server. It can grow, it can shrink. So it can be really flexible to meet exactly what you're looking for. As I said, the experts are maintaining your data. So it's got all the security, all the automatic backups happening. You can trust that it's going to be there when you need it. And the big one at the bottom that I put in orange, cost savings. That's really what it comes down to. That's why people have gone the direction of the cloud, is because it's cheaper. So this is a poster that's at Dublin Airport, and every time I walk past it, I smile. Which of these clouds has all my data? It's a nice way of looking at it. So that was a brief introduction to what digitisation is. It's how we store and manage data better. But what I wanted to do today was take a really practical approach. You're probably practical people, health and safety, environment managers. What do you do, and what do you need digitisation to do for you? So what do we do every day? Well, hopefully we don't have accidents every day, but certainly as health and safety managers, what we're measured on often is the number of accidents that happen. and trying to reduce that. So it's really important that we know what's going on and we know what we need to do to reduce accidents. Huge part of our job. I wanted to go back to basics and look at what accidents are so that we can look at what the software needs to do. So here's something you might have seen. An accident doesn't just happen, it's a series of events. Here we can see that there's an unsafe condition. There's a rusty connection here, the chain's rusty. These people, it should all be fenced off. They shouldn't be able to do this, but they're actually walking under where the load is moving. So there's an unsafe act happening. Now, these two things combine together and they can do one of three things. First of all, it could be that these people just keep on walking, the load is put down safely and life goes on. It could be this next one. We have the load falls and it hits the ground. It's a near miss. No one's been hurt, but it could have been. And then this last one, the load falls and it hits the people. And you can see it's a super serious accident that's happened, really horrible. So the difference between those three things, nothing happens, the near miss happens, the accident happens, it's chance. And we'll be familiar with that sort of concept as health and safety people. Now, what we want to do if we want to stop accidents happen is we need to find out about these things, all these things, the unsafe acts, the unsafe conditions, the near misses, and the accidents. The only way we can find out about them is if people report them. So this is where our digitisation comes in. It's about reporting and managing the accident. Well, the structure of the presentation is in the black here. I'm going to look at what happens with existing systems, paperwork systems, and the problems that you can face. And then on the right-hand side, we've got the solutions, the digital solutions, how digitisation can help you solve these problems. So as we've said, for accidents and incidents, probably the biggest problem is lack of reporting. If you think about those things that we had before, which one gets reported most, do you think, out of all these four things? Because everyone's on mute, aren't they? So I can't even get you to shout. You could shout in your offices. Accidents. Tell me which one. Accidents, yes. So a serious accident is going to be reported. It's something that you know has happened. Which one do you think happens the most often?
Unsafe act, the first one.
The first one. Actually, the answer is the second one. Unsafe acts cause 88% of accidents. So this is where the information is. And this is the ones that actually get reported. What we need to do is start to push it this way so more things get reported. So lack of reporting is a big issue. I must say, we probably all fall into the category that, you know, if you see something, if you have a very minor accident, you know, it's going to take you time to report. You've got to get the paperwork done. Someone might ask you more questions. It's you know, if you don't have to do it, then often people just don't, you know, and we're the people that are the health and safety people. So, you know, we're interested in doing this. If you think about many people in your company, they might be less keen to report. The easier we can make it, the more likely it is to happen. So it's easy to report with a mobile phone. You can even take photos wherever you are. A photo will describe a situation much better than having a lot of typing lots of words that are not easy to understand. You can even build systems in like feedback systems. So can you imagine, why would you report seeing a hazard if you think it just goes into this black hole and no one does anything with that information? But now imagine that your manager sends you feedback and says, thank you for letting us know about that. We'll do something about it right away. Then you start feeling better. You start feeling there's a purpose behind this. So feedback is a really important system that we can build into a digital system. Here's an example of the sort of thing I'm talking about. So we've got an accident here, the tanker's off the road, and it's been reported using a mobile app. So we have a form on the app. You can see that it's got photos built into it. It asks lots of questions. It's even, see these little eyes? I don't know if you can see them. They give you more information. So often when you fill in a form, or someone who doesn't do it very often, which hopefully is the case for an accident form, you read the question and you're not quite sure what it means. If you can click on an information button and write in the right, when you need the information, exactly the information you need, it gives you examples of what it's looking for, and it tells you how to do it better. Now that's really could be very powerful to help people who are less experienced than you are. So that's what those little eyes are. And that's the kind of thing that digitisation can bring you. So a second problem, you've had an accident and it's been reported. Now, to do something about it, we know that accidents don't just happen. They're as a result of a series of events. They have a cause behind it. If we know what the cause is, then we are much more, when we can address that, we can put in an action to stop that happening again. Then we are going to stop more accidents happening in the future than if we just address what's the result of that accident. So it's really important to find the cause of an accident, and you do that through an investigation. Now, I was an ISO certification auditor for several years. I saw thousands of these. Now, these are good companies I'm going to. They have an ISO certificate. They have a form that says we've had a problem, we've had an accident, or we've found a hazard. There's a box on it that says, what is the cause of the accident? Now, it's always got that box because ISO requires them to have that box. I can think out of those thousands of forms I've seen, I can probably count on one hand how many are actually filled in well. This is a few years ago, before everyone was into digital systems, that people just don't know how to do it. So if you can lead someone through an investigation by asking the right questions, so you can structure it in a form, then you're much more likely to get the information you need. So we've probably seen things like this before, that the sort of questions you might ask in an investigation: we've had a broken leg. Why did that happen? Because they fell from a ladder. Why did that happen? The ladder was damaged. Why did that happen? Poor maintenance. Why did that happen? Because there'd been a changeover in staff. Now, this is a good investigation where we found the cause and we know what actions we need to take to sort of be working in this kind of area to stop that and similar things happening again. That's really what the whole thing of incident reporting, incident investigation is about, is to find that. And digitisation can help us. Problem number 3, you collect all this data together. You've got a lot of information there, but it's very difficult to make sense of it. How do you know where your priorities are? How do you know what needs to be done? How do you communicate that with people? So, digital solution, we can have a dashboard. That information comes in real time into the dashboard, it updates it, and it shows graphs that will show where our trends are. So again, I have an example. This is just a small extract from a dashboard. So it's showing how we can analyze incidents to work out where those problems are. So if I go through, you can see that here, there were more incidents that happened in the workshop. They were mostly cuts and bruises of the hand. Happened due to housekeeping was the hazard. Unsafe conditions was poor housekeeping, and unsafe acts, procedures were not followed. Now, if I'm looking at this dashboard, I have a good idea of what needs to be done to make the best chance of reducing the number of incidents happening. And I can also communicate this with people. So they're on board and they also know what to do. So what we should be doing is, of course, going to the workshop, and saying, hey, look at your housekeeping, particularly, hands and bruises. So maybe storage of hand tools could be the problem, or sharp tools that are in the workshop. So it helps us really focus down on what is important. Problem number 4. I think this is perhaps the saddest one. How many times do you have an accident and you think, well, the same thing happened, I don't know, a year before, a month before, similar accidents that happen again, maybe the same area, maybe a different area of the company. But what we need to do is be able to learn and share that information. And with a digital solution, we can share information much more easily. We've already seen how a dashboard can show us where the priorities are and how we can share lessons learned from that. And also now we've got pictures of the situation. So, posters on the notice board, it's much, much more powerful if you're showing something that's happened in your company. It's really relevant to people. It will, they'll understand, they'll relate to it much better than you choosing something from, I don't know, IOSH has sent you a piece of a poster with something on that's not even related to your industry sector. So we're now starting to collect really powerful information that we can share. So really, up to now, I'm talking about accidents and near misses reporting. But we need to look at these as well, the unsafe acts and the unsafe conditions. So Heinrich triangle. I imagine you've also seen something like this. It might have different numbers on it. What we're really looking at is ratios, how many times we have different things. And it doesn't really matter what the actual numbers are, but the message is clear. We get a lot more unsafe acts, unsafe conditions, luckily, than we do accidents, minor accidents, and more of those than we do of fatalities. So it's really saying that if we look down here, we can learn a lot about what's going on in our organization. We can learn where the problems are, and we can learn what we need to do to stop these problems happening and accidents happening. So what this is often called is safety observations. So we're not talking about the if I might call it, the sort of the lagging indicators where it's already happened, like accidents. We're talking now about being proactive. We're looking at leading indicators, identifying things that we can do differently in the future to make a difference in the future. So we can report, there's two sides to it. Hazard reporting. So here you can see on the mobile app, we've made it super easy. So you see something, and what you want to try and do is get everyone in your organization involved in this. Remember, if you've got that feedback loop, so you can send back to them to say thank you for it, and maybe even start some sort of gamification on how many people are finding hazards and ideally fixing them themselves, to try and get sort of a buzz around safety. So reporting, let's see what's reported here. We've got cleaning in progress. So we've got, this floor looks really slippy. You can see it's shiny up here and it's wet down here. And people are walking on it. So, it's obviously there's going to be a slip hazard there. What we can do when we report it, we can think about, is this really the right time to be cleaning the floor? And maybe we can rearrange cleaning schedules. So we have reporting of hazards here. On the other side, this is my favorite bit. I love to think of health and safety as we're trying to do good. We need to be looking at the positive and not always looking at the negative. And here we're looking at the positive. So we can learn from jobs well done, good practice. Here we've and reward the people that are doing it well. So here we've got, do you remember before we looked at the dashboard and there was a problem in the workshop, they had bad housekeeping. Well, now they fixed that. They've put up the boards and they've got the chisels and things all beautifully stored. So now we walk past, we see that, take a photo of it and say, that's really good. job well done. And we can share that information, possibly again on the dashboard, on the notice board, and people will feel proud that they're part of that. And that's what we're trying to do. So we can use mobile apps for doing observations, hazards, and good practice. Okay, so second thing, what do you do a lot of at work? And this is not just you, but it's everyone probably that works with you that's doing inspections and audits. Now, all sorts of inspections and audits go on. I've got vehicle checks, equipment checks, harnesses, pre-work checks. Is everything in place to start work safely? Fire inspections for fire extinguishers in date, etc. All the evacuations happening. Workplace inspections, and if you have a management system, checking that people are actually following it. So management system audits, all sorts of different inspections and audits going on for you and for many of the people that you work with. So here's an example of someone who's working at height. And it's this person, before he started work, that has done an inspection on his harness. So again, he takes out a mobile app. It's always there available. And he clicks the button and he's got a list of things that he needs to check. So he needs to check the certification, the stitching, etc., etc. When he goes down, he says, yes, good. There's a problem with the stitching. So he takes the pictures of the stitching and puts in the serial number of that particular harness and sends the form. Now we've got that information in the system. We can link it to which project he's working on, which person it was who did the most harness checks, who's not doing the harness checks that they should be. All that information is now there at our fingertips to start using and to start making work at height safer. Problems that we have with inspections and audits. I think this is one that you'll recognize. So we're asking that guy who was doing the work at height, he's probably not a health and safety specialist. He's just the person that we got to do the job. He probably thinks it's a real pain doing an inspection of his harness, especially if he has to go and get a piece of paper, fill it in, send it. All takes a lot of time, and he wants to get on and do the job and get it finished. And probably his supervisor even more wants him to get that job finished. So we have a lack of time. Now, if we can speed things up, if we can use a mobile app, it's with you, it's in your pocket, take it out, fill in that form super quickly, add the photos like we said, then it's a much quicker process. And then we can start building that inspection into the job. So it's no longer seen as something that's bolted on afterwards, something that you've done for the health and safety team. It's now seen as it's part of working at height, is that I do this inspection and I just do it all the time automatically. It makes sense to do it. That's what we're aiming for. Problem number 2, your work site doesn't stay the same. It changes. What you need from your inspection changes. You need to be able to change the questions. Now, when you're using a paper form, you probably, you got your Word document and you retype the question and then you save it. And the first version was version 2. So now you're on version 6. If you're doing things properly, certainly for an ISO system, you have to go and find all those versions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and remove them. So people are only using the most up-to-date version. It's a real pain to do document control and keeping it up to date and keeping it relevant so people are doing the right thing. Now, what we can do digitally is we can edit the forms, and we have document control built in so people are always using the latest version. So if you remember this form here, let's go back to here. So we check in the harness. Now imagine we go down and our harness hasn't got any, it hasn't got any D-rings in it. We want to remove this question from the form. What we can use here, this is a drag and drop type system. So it's easy to do. We've got questions down here. This is a model of what the app looks like. So we can drag the questions across and then edit the questions so that they're the right for what we want, and then we publish it and it appears straight away in the mobile app. So everyone has the most up-to-date questions, and you can choose the question to ask the questions that are relevant for your company. So with digital systems, they usually come with a set of standard forms. You have template forms, so you kind of know the kind of thing that you want to ask, and then you can change them for how you work. That's really powerful, because only if it's relevant will people actually benefit from it. Okay, so the next thing, what do we all do? Lots of training. Let's see a show of hands again. How many people have done health and safety training here? You just have to put your hand in the air. I'm imagining it's everyone. Yeah. How many people here deliver health and safety training to other people in their company? I'm again imagining that we're nearly all, you know, training is a huge part of health and safety, training and competence. So what are we talking about for training? I mean, there's so many different types. Toolbox talks, really helpful in the workplace, covering a usually quite a small but focused topic, very relevant for the people that you're talking to, really good interaction, chance to ask questions, and, you know, and learn from each other and develop really good ways of working. So toolbox talks, really powerful. Then you get classroom training. So this is more formal. Perhaps it comes with an exam, you know, like the first aid test. And so you can prove that you've got a certification in something. On the job training, where you've got an experienced worker helping someone who's new to the work and showing them the ropes and how to work safely. So these are all face-to-face things. Huge advantages, probably the most interesting way of learning. You can answer questions, ask and answer questions at the time. You can watch people doing the job and see have they understood what it means. So really, really powerful way of learning. But it can be awkward. You might not have the skills to do the training in-house. It takes time. So we've now got electronic ways, and I'm sure we all use these. We use e-learning, we use webinars like today, YouTube. It's great. You just Google it. It'll give you a whole load of YouTube videos. You can watch them. They're quick. They're when you want it. You can watch it 10 times if you want to. You can show it to different people. So again, really powerful tools. And that has advantages as well. So both methods have advantages. And ideally, you're using a mixture of both with your training. So I don't want to talk about online training. I want to talk about what you as health and safety managers do with that information when someone gets trained. So problems that you have, you've sent people on a course. The question is, did it work? Did it get the results that you want? Now, and are they putting that into practice? Well, you can get feedback. I'm sure you got feedback forms. I know when I previously used to deliver training courses, I used to hand people feedback forms. They fill it in front of me. They hand it to me as they leave the classroom. Now, I think it takes a pretty ruthless person to say something bad about the trainer, to say something bad about the content of that training course. I mean, you can, but it's more likely that people say, oh, I enjoyed it, you know, it was okay, sort of thing. You don't necessarily get great feedback that way. With a digital solution, we can make that feedback anonymous. And then you're more likely to get better feedback, more accurate feedback. We can ask people to score training. We can ask questions like, what would you do differently? Or what will you do differently as a result of this training? And you know, that is a powerful question to learn from. We can also start to measure the outcome of the training. So imagine you give a course on chemical safety. Now, what are we going to see happening in the company? Well, in other areas, we're also doing inspections and audits, and we're getting hazard reports, and we're getting incidents and near misses. We can combine all that data and we can say, hopefully, when we did the training, we saw the number of hazards identified go up. So people are more aware, they're spotting things and they're doing something about it. We saw the number of incidents go down. Maybe that's a bit of a lagging thing. But then maybe after 3 or 4 months, it's gone back to normal. So maybe this is when we need to hit some refresher training, not necessarily training, but maybe stick a poster or something, a different type of format. So you can be much more targeted in what you do and when you do it. And this is all about managing safety better. Second thing, right? Imagine you are a project manager and you need to find the right person to do a job. You need that person to have the right training and skills, and you need the certificate to be in date. Now, it depends how big your company is, but you could be then wading through the filing cabinet looking for that person, and then you find that their certificate has gone out of date. If we're storing that information digitally, we're able to filter. We're able to filter on the person, on the skill, on the date of their certificate. And so we know when it's going to expire. We can keep these things up to date. We've now got that information at our fingertips. It makes us much better able to do that sort of matching exercise about, have we got the right people with the right skills doing this job? How many of you sit in meetings? What sort of meetings do you sit in? Can you unmute yourself and tell me what sort of meetings you're sitting in, safety meetings? Shout at me. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you what I sit in. Go on. What do you do, Dapo? What meetings do you sit in?
Project meetings.
Project meetings, yeah. Anyone do safety committee meetings? Safety?
I do.
Yeah, okay. Management meetings?
I do.
There's a lot of meetings to managing health and safety. Let's think what we do in those meetings. We plan what we want to achieve, think about how we're going to do that, who needs to do it. So we set some actions, we go through the actions and see if they happened, and then we see if we've actually achieved what we wanted to do. So that basically is what happens in a meeting. It's about trying to get the format for getting results, and that's also a bit like what we see with the management system. Many of you will be familiar with this, the plan, do, check, act type approach to continual improvement. And digital solutions, again, can help us with this. They can provide automation so that information flows around this loop and doesn't get stuck. That can be really important. Let's think about our meetings. Now, meetings I sit in, generally they say, oh, this is going to be a really quick meeting. It's going to be 15 minutes long. And then you start getting to the nitty gritty. You get to that action list and you say, have you done the action? No. And this one? No. And this one? No. And the actions stay on the list, and the list gets longer, and the meeting gets longer, and everyone in that room gets more bored. It's kind of really common that happens, that actions don't get done. Digitisation, again, it's offering us a solution. So we can now send notifications to the person. You've been assigned an action. You need to do this. And if they don't do it, here's another notification. It's a reminder. You need to do this next week. Your action has gone overdue. And not only did they get that information, but it's in the system, it's in the dashboard that shows the status of, this person's got 3 open actions, this person's got 20 open actions. These actions took 3 months to do. These ones only took a week to do. That information is there. So you're able to manage it much better. You're able to, if you know these actions have been done and these ones haven't, then you know which ones you need to chase. So it's really making a much better use of your time, and it's making so that you have a system that you can trust it's done. So we're sitting in that meeting. Have you done it? No. Have you done it? Yes. Hey, they've done it. Now we check it off. The action has been done and it's closed. But, and this is a definite problem, has the action that they've taken actually solved the problem? For those of you, again, that know ISO systems, you'll know that there's a verification process. So the action is done, and then you verify that it's actually solved the problem. And this is something we can do easily with a digital solution. So the person that solves the action, they then take a photo of it. Now, maybe the health and safety manager, whoever, can see that photo. They actually know that it's been done. They know that it's working. They don't have to, that they can actually be confident that that's happened. So you can trust a lot more. So digitisation is a good way to build trust. Problem number 3 for meetings. So this is a management meeting. Maybe it's even a project meeting. You go there and you've got the salespeople and the production people. And these are all seen as revenue generating people. So often in a company, these people are given priority to it. Now, there's perhaps another reason. They come with data. The salesperson's got his sales figures. The production person's got his production figures. But I often go to health and safety meetings, and the health and safety people come with, something written, on the back of an envelope, how's it going? Yeah, it's going okay. We need this. It's the law. Da, 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 da. And they haven't got the data to back that up. With a digital system, you can have a dashboard. You can share your information and clearly show the problems that your company has. You can give statistics that show how big it is, how much it's costing you, and then get the budget that you need, hopefully, but you've got a much better chance of getting it when you're talking about real data. Then you can track the progress, and what how the progress is going, and whether the problem is being solved, and you can share that with the meeting as well. So having that sort of data at your fingertips is really powerful, and it will help move health and safety up the priority order in your company. If we're looking to the future, you may be aware for ISO standards, they're really looking at integration. It's about how to work more efficiently within a company. So the ISO standards now have a standard format for health, safety, environment, quality. The clause numbers all match up. We can do something similar with digitisation. We can integrate systems, and when systems are integrated, they become much more embedded in how people work. They're much more powerful. They become part of the culture of the company. So let's think about what we looked at the beginning. We looked at having accidents. So you have a health and safety accident, you have a quality defect, an environmental spill, a security, a broken fence, maybe facilities, you've got a broken lamp. All these things have a similar process. You're reporting a problem, you're solving it, and then you're analysing it. So we can integrate all those things. We can use a similar system for all those reporting if we're digitising it. And that will be really powerful. It means that you can also build some powerful allies in your company. If you're working across different departments, trying to break down the barriers between them. In summary, we've looked at the benefits of digitisation. We've looked at how you can collect more information, store it securely, use it for generating actions, the right sort of actions, get much better transparency of what's going on in your organization. So we're getting better control within our organization. We can work more efficiently. We've got those automated workflows. We can use our time better because we're no longer chasing actions and nagging people to see if they happen or not. And then the last one I put down here, boosting engagement. It's so important. Health and safety isn't just for us, it's for everyone in the organization. But we need to take them with us. We need to provide the right tools to do the job. And those tools need to make sense. Now, if you're still using bits of paper and getting people really bored and, the bureaucracy, that picture I showed at the beginning, then you have to wonder if these are the right tools to do it, if there could be a better way. And, I'm a firm believer that digital solutions are the answer here. Edward said right at the beginning, I worked in employee engagement for health and safety executive. You know, I've looked at best practice across large numbers of companies, and you know, I'm convinced that this is a good way forward. So I hope that it's provoked you to think a bit about how it could possibly work in your company and whether this might be a right way to go. So the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. Yeah, do you have some questions, please?
This is very interesting.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Alison, for the presentation. I hand over to Ernest, the Accra Region Secretary, to moderate the question and answer session. Ernest, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks so much, Mr. Chair. Alison, thanks so much for the presentation. I believe that if we are all to align and have effective documentation and work proactively, then we have to align with the digitization. And I must say that your presentation has fully enlightened us. And in fact, a lot of us will look up to this digitization rather than keeping the papers, because these papers, we are not even saving the environment. We say environment, health and safety. We need to save the environment by keeping the trees alive and go digital. Mm-hmm. So, yes. Colleagues, what do we have for Alison? Your questions, let them flow. You can type them, you can raise your hand, and then we'll go. I see a hand here, Dapu. You have a question?
Yes, thank you very much, Alison. Thank you so much. You made this seem so easy. I mean, the presentation is so easy to understand at any level. So thank you so very much. I have a question, because I've actually, this is a growing message, especially in the health and safety industry right now. We're hearing about digitization all the time. For us in West Africa, I've tried to source sometimes for some of these mobile apps, which started all the conversation, mobile apps on your phone and all of that. How affordable are these? Now, that's the first question. Second question is, are these available generically? Because I've had some conversation where some have actually insisted it's got to be customized to a certain business. So if you customize to a business, they can be used by another business. So are they generic? Are there things that are generic in health and safety management system? And do we have these apps in this generic format that can be, purchased by an organization and then used directly, rather than waiting for an app developer to come up with one and then you have to pay so much in order to get that? That's my question. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Okay. So how much they cost? I mean, there's the whole range out there. I think you have to start with what you want it to do, and then look at things like, will it bring value to you? So, how much are accidents costing in your business at the moment? Not just accidents, but the waste of time, the whole picture, the sort of iceberg about all the costs that are involved, and match that up against cost of software. I mean, I can't give you a cost of software because the whole range exists. I would suggest that looking at something that's flexible, so that you can, decide that I want to start this way, and I start with giving the software to, to 10 people. And then it can grow easily. So something that's flexible like that. And that would be a cost-effective way of doing it. Your second question on how generic the apps are. I think I showed you the slide of a drag and drop type form builder. It depends on. So as an ISO auditor, I looked at systems that people had bought. There's something called ISO in a box. I always knew when I went to a company that was using this, they were all the same and they didn't fit with how they worked. So they weren't actually helping anyone. They weren't helping health and safety because he was getting, they weren't helping the people on the floor because they weren't being asked the right questions. So a standard solution usually doesn't work. It's a good starting point because it prompts you to ask the right questions. But I'm a big believer in, if you can customize it, then it will be much more appropriate and it will be easier to get people to use it. So you can certainly get software solutions out there that have a way. You don't have to ask someone technical to do it. You can do it yourself. You saw the drag and drop form builder. You just pick the question, you drag it across, you type in it, and then you publish it. And then the app has updated with the questions that are relevant for your company. And I think that's hugely, hugely important. You need to have that flexibility built in to what you're doing.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So the next person on the list, Ayo Ubon, you have a question, and then thereafter runs for Jamra, who also add up, and then she'll answer them together. Ayo. All right, Ransford, kindly go ahead with your question if you're ready.
Okay, thanks so much, Alison. I think mine is not a question, just an add-on. So I think I like the fact that you made mention of the a case of where using a dashboard to convince management, because our top management employee doesn't have time to read our 10 pages, 15 pages of our HSE report. So HSE practitioners, is very key that we make our HSE reports in, I mean, some of us here, it's quite difficult to send a 10-page to your bosses for them to read it. They won't have time to go through. So it is very important that what Alison is just making, that we should be able to make our HSE reports in a more summarized way that may be able to still convince them and still make meaning to them. So for example, if you want to convince them on your budget for next year, 2023, I mean, your dashboard will be able to give you a fair idea in terms of how the start looks like. But my emphasis here is that our board members, our employers will not have time to read our 10 pages of our report. And therefore, using the dashboard to summarize what information we want to pass on for them to see is a key in convincing them in terms of our budget, in terms of how they see HSE. Thanks so much.
Ransford, I couldn't agree more. If we want to raise the profile of health and safety, which we all do, we need to be talking the right language. We need to be sharing really good information. We need data-driven decision-making going on. The sort of things that you can do with a digital solution, just like easy, and it will happen automatically. You've got a graph, you've set your KPIs, you've got a line growing across your bar chart saying that we want to produce, I don't know, we want 10 of these happening. Then you can get things like the bar will change color. So it goes 7, 8, 9. When it gets to 10, it changes color. And so you can then see at a glance, what color is it? And your managers know, oh, we've hit our KPIs in 3 out of the last 5 months, because they can see at a glance. We're providing them really quickly with good, powerful information, rather than just giving them an Excel spreadsheet and asking them to work it out for themselves. Completely agree with you, Ransford.
All right, thanks. I was saying, Ransford, that was a great one. Thank you. Yes, I'm a living testimony of using the digitization system in incident management. It really helped because the time you spend in doing investigation is reduced when you are using the digital system. And as she mentioned, how to filter good information to spice up your report, the digitization is key because it really helps. Sometimes you don't have to think a lot, you see them and then they really align and then make work very easy. And as Jambra rightly added, for you to convince and then have your top management to review your reports, in fact, it must be smart and then it must not waste time. Yeah, so with the digitization, it makes it very simple with the dashboard system. So let's all align and then also help our environment, as I initially said.
All right. Hi, Alison. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. My question is on the digital systems. Now, if we go into digitization in our organizations, and we know how at times these network providers could be, and maybe there's a server down, or maybe there's a general network outage, is there any way you can have a backup for your systems and your documents so you don't lose any information? Thank you.
You have to keep backups. That's so if you're it's your company server, then I'm sure someone is backing it up. You need to be testing those backups. I've seen backups that are really, really old and no one ever checks that they're working. And then when you have a problem, you find that the backup hasn't been working for some time, and then that's a real problem. If you're using a cloud system, it's really helpful. Someone else is taking that for you. So they're you know, the backups, the data security is all being managed by a professional, and you can trust that it's being done. If you're talking about your network going down, your access to the internet, then yes, that's for a mobile app, it will still work. You'll still be able to use the mobile app. But for the managing information, which happens over the internet, then if the server, if the internet has gone down and you haven't got an internet connection, then you're right, you can't do the managing of the information. Did that make sense? So you need a network to do stuff that comes over the internet, but you don't need a network to work on a mobile app, which works independently. It just sort of works on the device.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Ken, you have your hands up there.
Listen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, my question is, there are two. I think the first question is, how does this digitization save employers a lot of money? Because to propose this sort of digitization system, it should make a lot of economic sense. So how do people save a lot of money on this? And then secondly, can this platform work offline? So those are my questions.
Okay, I think, like I said before, for the working offline, a mobile app will work offline. So if your I don't know, your internet connection goes down, or you're traveling and you're in the middle of nowhere, there's no signal, you can still use a mobile app to make reports. You will be able to use the mobile app if you don't have a network connection, but the information that comes over the internet, you won't be able to use. Does that make sense? So that there's two parts to. I'm actually talking about my software system here, but most systems work in a similar way, in that you have a mobile app that sends data into the system. And what you want to try and do is give as many people as possible access to that mobile app so that they can use it for all their hazard reporting, incidents, inspections, etc., like we've talked about. The information then goes into the system from the mobile app, and you can use the app anywhere. You then have the manager who uses that data, viewing the data and looking at the actions, that side of things, that requires the internet connection, because that's the information that's stored in the cloud, and it's drawing that information and analyzing that information. So there's two parts to it. And when you say, what can you do when you work offline? You can use all the reporting systems. What you can't do offline is the data analysis. So that's one of your questions. The second one was about, again, about costs and how it saves money and where it saves money. So for sure, a data system helps. Someone said about saving paper. Yes, that's true. Saving time and where you use your time. So there's always a kind of an opportunity cost in what you're doing with your time. If you're spending your time chasing people for actions and you're spending, I don't know, 70, 80% of your time doing that, then that's not very efficient use of your time. And you could be doing much more useful things, so that it saves. It's not just you, it's think about how much time is spent. We saw the harness inspection, for example. So you've got workers that are out in the field and they're needing to do inspections. If they now have to spend, I don't know, an hour, I mean, it takes a lot longer than you think to go and find the right piece of paper, to fill in the form, to take the paper to where it needs to go. If you multiply that by the number of people who are doing these inspections, that comes out as a lot of time, and that time equates to money. So you're saving that. I think the third thing is the actions that you're taking. So you can waste a lot of money doing actions that are not effective. You want to know that you're doing the right thing. And with a digital system, we've talked about how it will help you, direct you to what the most cost-effective, the most useful things to do are, where your priorities are. If you can focus on your priorities, then you're going to get much better use for your money than if you're just like randomly spending money on things. So I think there's probably those three are the big three ways that you can help save money with digital. B, there's the enormous amount of time that people waste. C, we've got the making better solutions. And then D, hopefully we've got better control of our systems, so we can look at things like cost of accidents and say that we're reducing that. Can you hear the thunder?
Yeah, I can.
It's crazy weather today. Crazy weather.
Sounds great.
Bet you don't get crazy weather in Ghana, do you?
Not at all.
You can probably tell I'm English, and all we talk about is the weather.
Yeah, so that's great. Your hand is up again, but let's pick Alexandra Ocher's question, and then we'll come back to you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alison, for your presentation. I mean, this is just an add-on to the question Ken was asking about. I mean, the finances, how to save costs when it comes to digitization. I just want to quote this famous guru when it comes to quality, Philip Crosby.
Okay.
Yeah. He said, quality is free, but it's not a gift. It is the things that are not quality that cost us money. So if we are not able to go through this digitization process and then ensure that we are doing the quality things by reducing waste, by reducing the time spent in managing our data, and then efficiently communicating with other departments to be able to achieve our safety targets, then it means we are incurring more costs. It means that we are wasting a whole lot of time, which could be used in other things. So digitization will reduce a lot of time where you can sit in the comfort of your office or even in your house. When you are even laying on your bed, you can just know what you have to do the next morning or the things that you need to complete the very day or everything. And this will save much time than sitting down chasing people, as you said, for data which could have been accessed through an app. Yeah, so that's my add-on to what you were saying. Thank you.
Okay, that's very, very good point. Thank you very much for that. I've also found, so this is about the potential for financial loss. It's the Business Continuity Institute Horizon Scan report for 2019. So it's a pre-COVID thing. So this might be slightly different now, but this is not a health and safety report. This is business continuity. Potential for financial loss is huge. Number one, health and safety incidents, $1.2 billion on health and safety. Now, if you compare that with what they've got down here, we've got supply chain disruption, sort of nearly 200 million. Cyber attack. Now, I hear so much more about cyber attack, 144 million. So they're saying that actually that is less significant than health and safety. Reputation, adverse weather, IT and telecom outage, 5, lack of talent, 6, interruption to utility supply, 7, supply chain disruption. I'm sure that's higher now because of all the COVID and Ukraine problems, but cyber attack is 8, 9, introduction of new technology, and 10, exchange rate volatility. So a whole range of what they cost companies. But the number one is health and safety incidents. I thought that kind of like puts it in perspective of you know, where as a company, if you're trying to manage resources, manage finance well, then having a look at something like this is an important slide.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so to add up to what Ken actually talked about, the economic aspect, there is one thing that you have to bear in mind. Once you have a very good reporting system in place, that is the digitization, it will help a lot of staff. It will encourage staff to report more. And then the more you get unsafe acts and conditions taken care of, it will not lead you to near misses, thereby reducing cost of like something like material damage and then injury levels. Once these things are going down, then your insurance premium goes down because you won't pay more insurance. You won't incur further cost to take care of people who are not well. So effective health and safety system and the reporting system for that matter is a good thing. That will help reduce all these petty costs, and then that will have a good effect on the economy you are talking about. So let's look at that from that perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. You can certainly do a cost-benefit analysis of this is how much it's costing us now, this is how much we think we'll save, and compare that with the cost of the software.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Your hand is up. Are you ready now to ask the question?
Yes, good afternoon. Alison, good afternoon. This is Ayo. It's good to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Hi.
Yeah, so we had this conversation, I think last year, and we were not able to progress due to some challenges. It's good to have you again here in the platform of IOSH. There are a couple of questions which have already been answered, which have been thrown to you, and you have answered it, which I wanted to bring to you. I want to be specific. Sometimes when you brought this to my knowledge, and I tried to be specific, where I gave you some information on related to oil and gas. I want to be specific, industry specific, oil and gas. Using digitalization in oil and gas, we have to interface on offshore and onshore. And most of the information regarding to safety related to unsafe act, unsafe condition, accident are generated from offshore. And we know that offshore environment, oil and gas is sometimes going through the process using a mobile phone to take picture is sometimes prohibited. And digitalization is getting a real-time information. And this information, to get it, you need to use the mobile phone to go to the work site where job is going on. Sometimes there might be a potential hazard explosion where you use equipment that is not intrinsically safe. So I'm trying to consider how could this information be gathered apart from using a mobile phone. We said that you can use a ordinary camera, maybe a digital EIS camera, then you transfer the information to your mobile in your office. That is number one. Number two is in the offshore, not everyone may be able to have the app to collect information. There are some specific people who are going to collect this information and as well relay information to the shore base. So does it mean that there are some group of people that need to have the mobile app in their office and also for offshore and onshore so that the information can flow and as well be able to manage information and get the real-time information needed to process and get the benefit out of this. So that is just where I want you to elaborate more. Thank you.
Okay, so first question. Mobile phones can be a hazard. This is for sure. There's a couple of things. The first of all is that they cause people to be distracted. You certainly don't want to be using your mobile phone while you're driving, while you're operating heavy machinery, even while you're walking. You need to be sort of like aware of your surroundings and not focusing on what's on the phone. So I'm just talking about what my system does is you get a little pop-up menu that comes up and says, are you safe? Are you walking? Are you driving? This sort of thing. Are you safe? Yes or no? And it just prompts people to think, should I be doing this at this time? Because for sure, we don't want to cause accidents by using a mobile phone. So there's the distraction part of it. The second thing that you're talking about is flammable atmospheres. And yes, you're right. You need ATEX standard equipment to be in the zoned areas for which you can get mobile devices, iPads, whatever. They're expensive, they're bulky. The intrinsically safe versions. You probably, if you want something like that, you want to pretty much chain it to an area so that it stays in the area and it doesn't walk. I know companies, particularly construction sites, where they have safe zones, and you can go and you can use your mobile phone, you can make your report from the safe zone. And they have safe zones around their sites. And I imagine that it's the same when you're working offshore, that you have these zoned areas. Yes, for sure, you can take a picture with a camera. I think it might have the same sort of problems using the battery about whether it's ATEX rated. You can take photos with a camera and then attach it to the form in the app. And send that in as part of your report. So that's very possible. And if you find that a safer way of working, then that's good. I know of companies, it's not ideal, but they still use pieces of paper to collect information. But then they share that information over a digital system. So, it depends on the hazards that are in your work environment as to what you would choose to do for that. It is possible to get workarounds for sure, onshore, offshore organizations use digital solutions. I mean, I've seen, for example, I went to an accelerator program, and they had a wonderful, I mean, they show drones flying around in difficult to access areas, and collecting the footage. Obviously, it's digital footage. They show cameras, again, in really hard to access areas. You point a camera at that area, and you can see if rust is developing. So the sort of condition for maintenance before you have to like send someone sort of working at height or sort of to these hard to access areas. So it's possible to use digitisation, but you know, you need to think, what do we need to achieve, and then find out how you can do it. It's you know, it's not like a blank sheet of paper. You need to have a starting point of what you want to do. But now I've forgotten the second question was about, what was your second question?
Was about in terms of those who will be assigned to use the app in the installation, for example. Mm-hmm. Those how many people can be customized? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So again, thinking about how my system works is we have a system of permissions. So ideally, you give the mobile app. The mobile app is cheap. What we want to do is encourage as much reporting as possible. So you try and give the mobile app to as many people as possible. But then you assign people into teams, and the teams shows what information they can see. So you can't see, for example, if you're getting contractors using your system. So I imagine you have a lot of contractors that you work with, EO. You want them to be part of your health and safety system. They're part of how you work. You want standardized reporting. You want, if they see a hazard, if they are doing inspections, you want that to come into your system. So you give them access to the mobile app. But you don't want someone from this company to be able to see the information from that company. So what you do is you put them in teams, and they can only see the information from that team. So you can see all the information, but if you've got, and one of your contractors, contractor A, he can only see contractor A information. He can't see other contractor information. So you can do it like that. And then in addition to that, you give people permissions. So permissions is how they can use it. So you want some people to be not to be able to see the information. You want some people to be able to see it. Some people to be able to set actions. Some people to be able to I don't know, edit the forms. Some people to be able to invite people into the system. You don't want everyone to be able to do everything. So we have a system of teams on what you can see and permissions, what you can do with the information, which helps you control the information.
Okay, that is well copied, Alison. Thank you very much. I think we will have a one-on-one talks on this to see how we can progress, and also have a chat with those who can be of help to see how it works. It is very interesting if it practically can be used, and just as I learned that was mentioned is, you know, in this West Africa we are in the issue related to using digitization has been a challenge, but I think we need to put it into practice and start using them and see how it works and the benefits we can get from it. Then we can progress. I will get back to you on this one-on-one, see how we can progress. Thank you very much for having time with you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just share with people, please, EO? So when we spoke a year or so ago, you talked about things that you do offshore. So there was diving, there was breaking into a pipeline. There was very specific things for what you do. And I took your forms that you gave me for the checklists, and I made them into digital forms, and it didn't take me very long at all. And then we had a play with them. We made dashboards out of them. We saw how you could use that information. I think that's a really nice thing. If you, it goes with the question that we had before about how you can build a flexible system. So something like my Proactively system, it gives you the format for how you can do it. You can start with standard forms, or you can say, we have really unusual ones because we are a particular sector. This standard form doesn't exist. And you can start from scratch and you can build a form. You can build we saw the different question types. So you've got check boxes, drop downs, adding photos, adding signatures, all sorts of things, things like confidential information, so only certain people can see it. So you have quite a range of things that you can do. It's not as a very simplistic, like a paper form. You can't do anything with it, but with a digital form, you can add lots of interest to it so that people are kind of led through the process and can provide the right sort of information. So we built the forms for EO for his specific requirements. And then, like I said, we saw how now using his forms, we can do the inspections, we can do the action tracking, and we can do the dashboard, which will suit his business. So yes, we can do it. But to be fair, EO could have done it as well. I mean, I did it in this instance because I did it super quick. But after you've watched, I have they're like 3-minute YouTube videos on how to do it. So once you've seen, how a drag and drop system works, you drag the question, you type the question in, you make all your questions together, and you press publish. That's what it is. You can build your own digital forms yourself. You don't need to have a technical expert there to do it, or as someone said, an expensive app designer, because you can do it yourself. That's how we try to make things easy with the digital solution.
Okay, so to add my voice to what Ayo and Alison are talking about, technology in the health and safety space has really evolved. These days, there are a lot of very smart, intrinsically safe cameras. Some come in the form of an iPad, some come in the form of smartphones, and the like. Once the company is convinced they want to venture into digitization, they could consider any of these intrinsically safe gadgets that could be used anywhere, high-risk areas, all of that. So those data could be captured in real time. Thank you so much, everybody, for staying on till now. Alison, thank you for such a rich presentation.
It's great to see so many people coming to this event. Fantastic. Thank you very much. It's I think the West Africa idea, the sort of excitement and energy that's coming out of it as an area is fantastic. So really good.
Anyway, we can't say just thank you, but the whole team really appreciates you today, and then we'd like to give you a presentation, which is a certificate of appreciation for facilitating today's meeting. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Alison. You're welcome. And then we hope to see you more often as well.